In the know, non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
As I understand it, had we met in a larger room, I would not have missed practice because I was not a close contact as deemed by actually being in contact. So, it was disappointing to miss practice. In my entire college and pro career, I have not missed 4 practices. So to miss 4 practices in 1 week, and not have COVID was frustrating, disappointing. But, worked on my own, did all the virtual meetings, was able to do the best I could with the situation we had. I do believe the protocols work, and that's why I believe I didn't have COVID, after being in a meeting room like that, because the mask and the social distancing works. Now we look forward to the degree that, you test positive for the virus, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated, you can't play in a game. You can't play in a game with COVID, regardless of your vaccination status. So the key will be not being a close contact. I'm at peace with where I'm at, and I'll follow the protocols vigilantly.
Welcome into Purple Dysfunctional. Oh, wait, I mean Purple Daily. Zolgad out here at the Vikings. I just got back from that Kirk Cousins press conference. The team's going to practice this afternoon. Declan Goff, executive producer, and I believe that Phil Mackey from Nashville, where he is doing some business, will be joining us on the phone at some point. Before we start with a dissection of what Kirk Cousins did and did not say in his press conference, of course, want to thank our friends at TCL. Enjoy more with TCL and the new presenting sponsor, officially starting on Monday of Purple Daily, because they're not dysfunctional. Our friends at Surly. I've just happened to have
you know what? Just get the tattoo
IPA
at this point,
here.
Zolgad. Get the tattoo, right, put it on your chest.
Do you know how long I have been waiting to team up with Surly?
I know.
Do you know how happy I am? I went and got the variety pack last night.
Yeah.
It's delicious. Folks,
I've worked on and off with you like for the last 5 years, and I really truly don't think I've ever seen you this happy at work. And you like work. And you enjoy your work.
I spent like 10 years saying, get me a beer. And Chris Ron, our guy, and the good folks at Surly have cut a deal, and they are going to get their money's worth from me, both at the liquor store, Declan Goff, and on Purple Daily. All right, so let's break it down. In fact, you just heard a lengthy soundbite from the Kirk Cousins press conference, 10 minutes plus, I believe, answering questions solely on his decision not to be vaccinated, the fact that he had to miss practice, and the fact that he clearly, although he won't talk about it, and I tried to push him a little bit, and
you did.
He wouldn't budge, but he clearly is not going to get vaccinated. Now, as far as his current relationship with head coach Mike Zimmer, I would say that has certainly seemed to be on the rocks. All Kirk would tell us was he had a great conversation with Zim last night. Given Zimmer's comments of late about Kirk not being vaxxed, and in particular his sort of play-by-play of what Kirk hasn't done when it comes to taking precautions and protocols on Dan Barrero's show, I'm surprised. I think Kirk is, how can I put this nicely, stretching the truth. But I did ask Kirk, I said, your head coach said on another station that you flat out don't believe in the protocols, which of course is a huge problem if he's going to follow them. And he said, that's not true. I do believe in them. Okay. So he's going to be back at practice today. He is going to, as you heard, and it's important in that soundbite, he's now blaming the quarterback room and the size for what was deemed to be close contact, but he now says was a mistake and shouldn't have been close contact. So he shouldn't have had to sit out practice. He's been tested 6 times. They've all come back negative for COVID-19, and that he now has told Zim, we can meet in January underneath the goalpost outside, and that's fine with me because I want to do whatever it takes to get to the playoffs. And that, of course, comes back to the question, well, then why don't you get vaxxed? Because this is not a question of your beliefs. As I told him, I said, Kirk, this is about a very simple thing. Your beliefs are your beliefs, and ain't no one going to change them. But you have a responsibility to your teammates. And I flat out said, you don't have a quarterback behind you that can play. Like Jake Browning cannot be asked to play. So it's not like you've got a guy, oh my goodness gracious, lucky we've got Nick Foles or something. So you have a responsibility to your teammates, Declan. You have a responsibility to your coaches, including Zim. No matter how much you might hate him, that's not the point. And you have ultimately a responsibility to the fans, to Vikings fans in this state. They buy your gear. They buy tickets. They are the reason why you can live the life of luxury that you do. I didn't say that part. But anyway, the point was, this is out of your, this is not a, well, it's my belief, buzz off, which you tried to say. This is a story about a guy who in a lot of people's minds is looked at, right or wrong, and payday justifies this, as a football player, not a person. If he wants to be a person, go get a job. Go work behind a desk, and no one will ever bother you again. But I would say that this press conference, if you're a Vikings fan, was unsatisfying because he said almost nothing. And I also would say that everything that we believe to be true, Dex, about Kirk Cousins going into today was confirmed. There's always an excuse. The only time that he falls on the sword, if it's a premeditated attempt, which I've never bought that he believes it. But again, Declan, what were the excuses now? The room wasn't big enough. That's somebody else's fault. Kellen Mond got sick. I've taken control. If I can control this, I'll be fine. If I can control this. And think about Kirk's career here. How many times has he said that Falcons game, all on me? I'm going to break it down how bad I was. There's always other factors. This goes back to the legendary year one after the Bears game and the Vikings were eliminated from the playoffs, Score North collar rant about code words. That rant was a buildup of Matthew having seen this guy at every turn, having an excuse. And now it was the first year. It was difficult, but next year, 2019, we'll have code words. Collar went crazy because that was just another way for him to have an excuse. And look, folks, you can be the biggest Kirk stan, and I can back you up on his stats, which are pretty damn good at times, and we can dissect his play on the field. But if you consider what we saw today in that press conference to be a leader, I'd like to see your definition of what you think a leader is, because that today was nothing even close to somebody resembling what you need mentally from a National Football League quarterback.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing press conference.
That's my thought. Go ahead. I'm just
and I don't know. I'm surprised your arm isn't hurting from the fastballs you were hurling at him. I was watching it too. I could hear you asking him, and he in every single polite way wanted to probably tell you to buzz off, and I'd probably not buzz, probably another word, but just the way he answered all these questions. So you did 6 negative tests, so you were willing, and obviously you had to because he wanted to return, but you're willing to do 6 negative tests on 6 consecutive days, but you aren't willing to get a vaccine. You've had a doctor that has come in here to every NFL team, and your coach has said, have you listened to this doctor? Listen to this medical professional who is going to educate you and tell you what the benefits are to getting this vaccine. And probably the biggest takeaway, one of mine was from it, is that he immediately says, no, I've never talked to her. All right, and so does that mean, did he skip that meeting? Did he even take into fact what she even ever said to all these teams that she's going around? And the head coach has literally praised her for her intelligence and for her fortitude to educate the teammates and the entire organization on where you can be if you get this vaccine and the benefits and the questions, and rightfully so. Have questions about this, have comments to them, and a medical professional will answer them. And for him to literally say, I have never talked to her, says everything I need to know about him, because you haven't been researching, you haven't been asking questions, you have your own personal belief and you put it above everybody else. And it's extremely frustrating to hear that. I was beside myself as well. You're literally peppering him with, well, this is a bigger thing than just your personal belief, Kirk. And literally just a robot. Yeah, I'll follow protocols. Next question. I couldn't hear it, man.
Who is right? And he had talking points for sure. But the problem too is that's about his approach to it. Said nothing. And he's basically, what he's trying to say is, I blame other people because our room was too small, and the tracers weren't right. Everything's not his fault. And then he is telling us that he's not going to be exposed to COVID. And I said, this thing's spreading like wildfire, Kirk. Like, good work on stopping it. And he is telling us that he is going to control this. And keep in mind, I'll say it again because it bears repeating. He's not sick. He might never get sick. He might miss 4 games. That's what people, and I'm not saying it's a large group, but there seems to be a group of people, Dex, that don't get that. This has nothing to do with you being ill. This has nothing to do with anyone really being concerned about your health. I mean, he's a quarterback. Okay. I don't want him to die, but I certainly am not going to sweat if he gets sick. But the problem there is he is putting himself in a position to, as a healthy quarterback, miss games because the league is punishing people who are not getting the vaccine. And there's so much misunderstanding about this. And because he won't go into his beliefs at all, it just looks clueless. Like it just looks like it looks like this. I don't care about anybody but me. Yeah. And it's like, dude, you're a $31 million cap hit and you're really telling people this? Mm-hmm. You don't care. And I'm going to come back to this. And you can be pro-vax or anti-vax. But if you're a Vikings fan, you're being screwed.
Absolutely.
Why would I want to buy season tickets to a team when I might have to watch Jake Browning start? And that's the truth. You might show up at the stadium on Sunday and Jake Browning might have to start. You know what the team will say? They'll be ticked off, but they will say, next man up. But if you just paid, I don't know what a ticket is, $150 to go to a game and you're watching Jake Browning, you cannot say, I'll just go to the next game. Or if you have season tickets, you're spending thousands of dollars, right? Potentially. Mm-hmm. And you're just going to show up and he can't play because he thought he could control it. Nothing drives me crazier than people who think they can control something they can't control. And I'm going to tell you right now, 51 years on this planet, COVID is the biggest one. We thought we were going to control this from the outset. We thought in the spring, when a lot of us got vaxxed, it was done, right? Like, this is it. It's going to be done. We're finally back. And you know what? We're back a little bit, but now it's got variants and it's a smart virus and it's spreading. So don't tell me that any medical expert can be like, oh yeah, just wear the mask. And the mask is like the old trend. It's 6 months ago. The mask is 6 months ago. The mask is still good, but you got a vaccine to keep playing now. And you basically just told us, I'm going to avoid this. The head coach who's been ripping me for like 3 days, we're fine now. It's repaired. And I'm not concerned about anybody but me because my beliefs trump football. You know what? I'd love to see what would happen if the Vikings today called the Players Association and said, okay, cool. Kirk, high risk, won't do it. We're cutting his contract by $15 million. What does Kirk say then? Yeah,
I know. Money can talk. Money can absolutely talk for it.
If you threaten him, and I'm sure it wouldn't fly, but if you said, you know what, Kirk, you're right. We're going to cut your contract too. You think Kirk would be like, oh, that's great. That's fantastic. I love this. No, he wouldn't. But the excuse making to me is why this guy will never win at a high level anywhere he plays as a quarterback. And it's why Washington franchised him twice and let him walk. Yep. That's why, because what we saw today is the blueprint for how he lives his life, which is not conducive to winning. It's conducive to being a good athlete. Mm-hmm. It's conducive to his wishes and his wants, but it's not conducive to winning in any sport.
Let's you're obviously a little fired up over this. I can count just a little bit, and you're rightfully so to be fired up. Let's though we have a guy standing by, I believe, all the way down in Nashville, Tennessee. It's actually not Pulford Skull, but let's get our guy Phil Mackey in here. And by God, look who it is, Heartbreak Kid walking down the aisle here.
First of all, can you guys hear me okay? I'm literally sitting here at the Podcast Movement Convention in Nashville here, and I just sense a lot of tension in the air. I sense Judd is worked up. I sense we all need to just chill out here for a minute. And what better way to make that happen than our friends at Chill Boys and chillboys.com, the most comfortable underwear you're ever going to strap on in your life. And I got 2 words for you, not those 2 words, Declan, bamboo fabric. That's what's keeping me chill during this moment of anxiety as someone who follows the Minnesota Vikings. Chillboys.com.
Bye, Phil.
Bye, Phil.
Yeah, chill boys, man. Chill boys. You know what? You just put me in a good mood. Right there. I'm in a terrible mood. You just put me in a good mood with that chill boys.
First of all, I think, 7.5 years ago, when Judd and I first started doing the Mackey and Judd radio show, one of the mantras that we used to have is, and this not in a political sense, but we are the most progressive sports talk show in the country. Not like, again, not politically. I mean, we were always thinking of new ideas for how to innovate, how to make sports better, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys have just missed the entire point of Kirk Cousins' press conference, okay? He's going to operate inside TCO Performance Center, inside of a plexiglass booth to stay away from his COVID toxic teammates, okay? Kirk Cousins is innovating the way that we think about the workplace, okay? People talk about social distancing. How about just working out of a phone booth with armholes in it the whole season, okay? I mean, maybe you might have to, the right side might have to have a little bit more of like a higher slot. You can still throw passes out of it. But I think he's onto something with this whole build a plexiglass booth around him so he can still watch film inside the practice facility.
So, first of all, yes. In fact, I rolled my eyes. Basically, I was standing right to Kirk's side there, and I'm like, you've got to be joking. But Phil, I would summarize this press conference by saying, if I had to take one grand thing, I could only give you one observation, okay? It's this. This solidifies that this guy is never at fault. Everything, interceptions, bad passes to Thielen, COVID, nothing is ever his fault. It's always the guy that gave us the wrong quarterback room, or the guy that ran the sensor wrong, or Thielen ran the wrong route, and I'm going to show everybody, including him. It's never his fault. And I said, this is why he will never win at the level that we expected at one time or wanted, because he has no ability to take ownership and leadership of anything but what he thinks is best for him.
Yeah. I think I would have, listen, we've just come to an impasse when it comes to his beliefs versus Mike Zimmer's beliefs versus the beliefs of Vikings fans. Certainly there's a lot of Vikings fans that are siding with Kirk, and, the free country. But I've always turned a side eye at Kirk's style, quote unquote, of leadership, because he very rarely does. If he owns something, it always feels like he's sort of just saying it because that's what the media wants to hear and the fans want to hear. Where he lost me was literally the first, and I haven't watched the whole thing, so I haven't seen the pressing Judd questions, and I can't wait to go back and watch the back and forth. But where he lost me was the first words out of his mouth basically were blaming the size of the room.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Are you serious? The size of the room. It was we'll just go to a convention center for our quarterback meetings and we'll be fine. It'll be good. In fact, here, I think the Opryland Hotel, this room should be big enough to hold a Vikings team meeting so that nobody catches COVID or becomes a close contact. All right, just move them on down here to the podcast movement convention. It's I don't know, man. I think at this point, you're basically just hoping that he can stay isolated and stay healthy if you want the Vikings to win a bunch of games. And it's not like you said, Jess, it's not even really about health, because I think that's where people get tripped up. He's healthy, and that's where he's getting tripped up too. I'm a healthy young athlete. My body is a temple. I'm very unlikely to feel anything other than some cold or flu symptoms, right? Mm-hmm. But if one of your 30 unvaxxed teammates spends 3 minutes around you inside the practice facility somewhere, or if you come in contact with somebody in a game that tested positive and you're deemed a close contact or whatnot, or somebody in your personal life, in your family, right? You have to sit out a week, whether you have symptoms or not. So anyways, I don't know. I think you guys have covered most of it here. It's probably frustrating for Mike Zimmer, even though it sounds like they had a great conversation last night, but this will not be the end of the road. It feels like Kirk wanted to say, oh, this is all going to be behind us now. We have a bigger quarterback room. I don't see this not hitting speed bumps at some point in the next couple months. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
by the way, speaking
Yep.
of speed bumps, have I told you guys about Brainerd International Raceway?
Well, no, I haven't heard about them since yesterday.
The NHRA, you want to see 330 mile an hour drag racing. NHRA, Lucas Oil. I mean, this is one of the best big time racing events of the year. Ticket and camping packages available at BIRMN.com. That's BIRMN.com.
So we got Chill Boys.
Mm-hmm.
We got Brainerd now. That it?
Oh, we got a lot more. Yeah, for now.
That's it for now.
For now. Yeah.
Okay.
I got to run.
I gotta go.
I just felt like this was an emergency episode. Felt like I wanted to chime in with y'all and
all right. See ya.
Skol Vikings.
Bye.
There, Phil.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, that's so the long and short of this thing, I guess, to calm down a little bit and give you a takeaway is this. This is going to almost certainly happen again. And it's going to be potentially, worst case, Zim's nightmare, a year-long thing. So I don't know what to tell you. I think you got to go try and find a quarterback that's played in games. I'm not saying that it would be perfect, and I'm not saying that QB would for sure win you games, but I don't think it's probably fair to throw Jake Browning out there. And I think if you so Kirk's assuming he's fine. Like Kirk's basically saying everyone who has COVID, stay away from me because you're the problem. Which is okay, pie in the sky. So I think if you're the Vikings, Declan, your job right now is to 1000% starting today, assume the worst. Assume that if the Delta variant goes away, a new one will come in. Assume that Kirk is going to be, close contact 3 or 4 times. I think you have to, as the team, as Zimmer, Spielman, and Brzezinski, it's incumbent upon you now to just assume that we're going to go through what we just went through on certain game weeks. And I don't think that you can have the current quarterback room, no matter what its size is. I don't think that it works to have this current quarterback room without a veteran who's vaxxed. So
yeah, it is beyond frustrating. And
yeah, if that's what I'm curious about it. How do Vikings fans feel? Like, that's what I want to know.
We're
I'm
getting
frustrated for you. You care. You probably care more than I care. But I mean, it's just when I see a person banging his or her head against the wall, declaring that this virus, which has just been like wildfire for how long now, that you're just going to control even being around it. Like if this was Kirk just getting sick, I wouldn't necessarily agree with him, but I'd say his odds are pretty good. Like, wear a mask, be careful. You probably won't get sick. You still might, but this isn't that. This is just contact. And look, clearly, so if Kirk was right and the sensors were wrong and he found out, hey, you know what? They screwed up. Do you think the Vikings wouldn't have got him on the practice field on Monday? Of course they would have. So like somebody said, no, you still can't practice. So that means that the margin for error here, which Kirk is pointing to as the excuse, but it remains, the margin for error isn't going away. Like, what happens the next time that a red light accidentally goes off? In fact, I'll show you right now. I've got one, Declan.
Do you?
Little show and tell for you. I've got a sensor.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And it's blinking, I think, green right now. But if I go in the press room and get too close to a person, it's going to go red. And I'm guessing that there is a computer way to monitor this chip. So Kirk can tell you all he wants. Hey, you know what? They screwed up. But clearly the league's saying we don't care. Our goal is to punish you if you're not back. So the only thing I can say is I think the Vikings have no choice but to, starting today, assume the worst and reevaluate what they're doing quarterback-wise and get at least somebody that you consider sufficient who's not going to, for lack of a better term, urinate down their pants leg if that player has to play.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear what Zimmer is going to want to say after this. I know he said he didn't want to talk about vaccinations anymore, but I am dying to know what the head coach thinks of this after those comments.
Yeah, I'd love to know too.
You know he's got thoughts.
Oh God, yes. And I don't know if we'll hear them or not. I think it's weird. I think it's funny. I think Kirk miscalculated by saying we had a great discussion and now it's sort of done, because I don't think Mike's not going to see things that way until Mike knows his quarterback can play. So yeah, I think the next time, and Zim might not say much, but he certainly has thoughts, and he and Kirk's vaccinated teammates are definitely going to have thoughts if Kirk can't play. There's no question about it. Availability in this league, Declan, is the most important thing. I mean, this is a league where Zimmer gets frustrated by guys who get hurt.
Right.
You know, Cam Dantzler, right? Cam Dantzler, who talked today before Kirk, was talking about, you know, trying to add on a little bit of bulk because he's so thin. And what did Zimmer say after last year? You know, he's got to be stronger. He's got to be able to stay on the field. Keep in mind, one of Cam Dantzler's injuries was a really scary concussion that he had zero control of. But you know what frustrates coaches? When guys can't play. Mike Zimmer, and he was wrong for this, but Mike Zimmer ripped Sharif Floyd, who it turns out had a surgeon screw up his surgery.
Right.
And he poked fun at, or didn't poke fun. He was frustrated and angry about him not playing. Nobody, I mean, Sharif Floyd didn't go in and be like, hey, I hope this surgery goes well, doc. And if you screw up, it's going to be great fun. He had every intention of playing again. And really, when healthy, he was a damn good player. But Zimmer was frustrated with that. So how do you feel now when you have people who, again, are looked at as football players first, people second? That's brutal to say, and it's true. Look at this sport. This sport is awful. It's a brutal sport. I love it. It's fun, but it's a brutal sport to play. There is, you know, these guys lots of times die early. The only reason why the concussion thing is now a big deal is because of potential lawsuits. This league is all about one thing. Can you play on Sunday, and how much can you sacrifice yourself to play? And now you've got guys saying, you know what? I mean, I'll wear a mask. Hopefully that works. That's all I've got. But I mean, if I'm a Vikings fan, and again, I would love to hear what Vikings fans think, because a lot of them have to be beside themselves, because this is supposed to be a good team. And this is one distraction this team does not need. And I guarantee you, no matter what Kirk told us, it's going to be a distraction every day.
Yeah, it's going to be frustrating to watch. And I'm curious how this all plays out. I want to know what the head coach thinks. I want to know what other players think. But in general, just to briefly answer your question, what do Vikings fans think, judging by our comments here? I mean, some of them obviously are upset and they want to trade him, or they want us to bring in another backup, or this, and that. And some people are saying, no, I respect him for doubling down and sticking to his guns and being, you know, I guess, admirable for sticking to his convictions. I mean, I think there's something to be said about, yes, you know, having pride and having convictions and having a lot of say in what you believe in and following those. But I also, as I love to say on these shows and in life, is self-awareness, and be aware of things that you might think yourself and your intuition at first tells you, I want to do things this way. And then when you learn about something or you experience something, you change how you look at things. You adapt. You have the awareness to realize, oh, I was handling this poorly. How can I make myself better? How can I better myself out of this situation that I thought I was handling correctly, when in reality I was handling it completely wrong? How do I make myself a better person out of that? And I don't mean to get too philosophical there. I went to St. Cloud State, go Huskies, but at the same time, you got to have a little bit more awareness if I'm Kirk Cousins. And I think that's what has been really perplexing and really just confirming my true feelings for the guy.
And you've got to know who you are too. Prime example, Declan Goff, okay? There's a good chance, and I don't know this for sure, and I don't think it's been definitively reported on, Tom Brady is not vaxxed, okay? But you know what Tom does? He leads a charmed life. He leads, I mean, he's super competitive. I'm not taking away from the fact that he's great, but he leads a charmed life. He's Tom bleeping Brady. And you're not, and I'm not, and Kirk's not. Kirk isn't lucky enough to dodge this. He isn't. Some people have that charm. As Zimmer said during the course of the 2017 Case Keenum season, in one of many digs against Case, he's got a horseshoe around his neck, okay? Kirk does not have a horseshoe. So, unfortunately, this is going to come back to bite him in the ass. And we're probably going to get the same thing, which is, hey, it's still my belief, and I'm going to look ahead to the next game. I don't know who that might be, San Francisco, or I'm going to look ahead to the Rams. But I'm telling you right now, man, this thing between this guy and this team has the potential to go right off the rails.
Yeah.
And if you think as Phil said, and I'm sure he's right, if you think that the Twins season fell apart in part because guys like Simmons didn't get vaxxed, and it sounds like it did, you ain't seen nothing yet. If this goes sideways, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly, and there will be no going to a podium and explaining it away and basically telling the Judd Zolgaz of the world to shut up. So that's all I've got. Final thoughts, or are you good?
I'm good. I'm still a little. I'm not as upset and as fuming as you are, but I'm very frustrated too.
It's just I hate to see incompetence.
I hear you.
But before we go, do you know what's not incompetent?
Furious, baby. I got some in the fridge at home.
All Surly products. And in fact, if I could summarize my feeling today, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
No offense to our
Just
friends
furious.
at Surly.
You know, I got some in the fridge at home. I'm popping home right after this. We're going to end recording. I'm going to do some post production with some IPA. Yeah. That's all right. Do.
So again, go Surly, go Declan, go Phil, and Kirk Cousins. Figure your stuff out. We'll talk to you later.